Hello, my name is Francois Harris, and I'm an expat from the United States. I've been living abroad for almost 18 years, and maybe a lot of you know me from another channel where I do a lot of travel vlogging, but that channel has become very stressful to manage. So I decided to start this channel where I can talk about all of my life experiences being an expat in a very unfiltered way. I don't want to also deal with any stresses of editing videos or looking at analytics, paying attention to metadata or anything like that. So I'm just talking straight from the top of my head. I am now living in Kazakhstan. I have been living in Kazakhstan now for about 2.5 months, almost 3 months. But my home base is in South Korea. I've been living in South Korea for almost 15 years. Yeah, 15 years. So, yeah, I've been outside of the United States for almost 18 years now. Well, no, now it's over 18 years. And my first international experience started when I was in France. That was the gateway to me leaving the United States and finding a world that existed outside of America. And now I just can't get enough of living outside of the United States. And I never thought I would be here in Kazakhstan. I never thought I would even last as long as I did living outside of the United States. When I first started thinking about moving, I had a lot of help. I had my second college teacher of French to help me come up with a plan to move outside of America by finding a language program with the US government and French government that allowed me to become a teacher in France. So after becoming a teacher in France at the age of 22. At the age of 22, mind you, I had no experience teaching at all. I was just a university student, and I was actually going to a 2 year university at that time. I graduated from a 2 year university or 2 year college. So I was in the transition period of this school, 2 year school, and going to the 4 year university. When I when I left the United States, I had like no plan. I only knew that I wanted to try to live in another country. I had been studying French at school, and I just wanted to see how life was outside of America. You know, there was something inside of me that always wanted to leave. It always wanted to get outside of the United States. And I finally found a way to do this. Now, I made a bunch of mistakes along the way while preparing to go to France. And, hindsight is 2020. If I would tell my younger self, what to do, I would tell this person, this Francois at 22 years of age, that you need to make sure you have a lot of money saved before you just jump outside of the country. I was working two jobs at that time. When I was at the 2 year school, 2 year college, I was actually working three jobs, and I was taking the MARTA bus between school and all of my jobs. And then I finally got a car from my mom, a used car, and I was able to, upgrade my transportation. And then I was able to quit one of my jobs after I paid off some of my medical expenses. But I did not estimate the amount of money that I would need to travel, to live abroad, even though I had a job in the country where I was going, even though I had everyone help me find an apartment. And well, I didn't have everyone help me. Everyone did when I arrived in France. And even though I had a job that provided a visa for me, I still needed a lot of money. I didn't understand how much I needed. So I remember I had this fabulous plan in my head that I was going to pay all of my bills before I left the country. So I worked as much overtime as I could. I didn't buy anything that I didn't need with my money. I was very frugal. I didn't, pursue reckless endeavors. And I did it. I paid off all of my medical expenses. I paid off all of my past due cell phone bills. I was a student. I didn't have any money, and I had a lot of bills. And I was thinking in my head, like, I want to leave the country in the best state possible. I want to leave not owing anything. So I don't want to have any troubles when I come back. And although I think my thinking was very noble, I don't think that was the correct mindset to have as my first experience moving outside of the country. So I remember going to France, and as soon as I arrived there, I was crying. And I remember only having about, how much did I have? I think I had like $250 in my bank account. And the thing is that I had direct deposit. So it might have been 150 or 250. I'm thinking it's 150. So I remember I left the US. I had like, I think $50 in my bank account, and direct deposit would hit the next day, like while I'm on the plane, or when I, finally arrive in France, I would have this money. So I was a little comfortable having this money when I got there, but before getting there, I was so nervous because I was starting to see how much things added up. And very luckily, I was very fortunate to have like this angel to come and rescue me. And this is the only thing that I can call her, is an angel. I met her on the plane from Chicago to Paris. I'm 22 years old. She's like in her maybe late 50s or so. She's a short woman. And she got on the plane, and she was so short, and I could see that she needed help putting her luggage overhead. And mind you, I'm not very tall myself. I'm only 5'8". Well, not only, but I am 5'8". So I was like, okay, at least I'm tall enough to help her. So I helped her, and she was like, oh, thank you so much. You're a wonderful young man, right? And I'm like, oh, no problem. You need help. And turns out she was sitting with me. So she sat down with me, and we talked. We talked. And I don't know how she got this information out of me, but for some reason she started to, talk to me about some more personal things that I don't even remember how, we bridged the conversation into this. So, long story short, she ended up showing me how to get to my town. She told me, don't worry, when we get to Paris, I'm going to pay for our taxi from the airport into the city. And I'm like, wow, I don't deserve this. Like, who are you? So we get to Paris, and I help her with her bags, and I get one of these trolleys, I remember, and I'm putting my bags in there. She's putting her bags in there, and I'm pulling it to the taxi. We go outside, we're standing in line, and there's a taxi. And I remember, getting into the taxi, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm in Paris, I'm in France. Like, what am I doing here? I have no idea what I'm doing here. I mean, I have a job lined up, but in my mind, I'm like, I really don't know what I'm doing here in this country. And I remember on sitting on the I was in the taxi. I remember sitting on the seat in the taxi with her. And I'm 22 years old at this point, right? Mind you. And now I'm 42. So this is 20 years ago, right? So I remember sitting and just like thinking, like, what am I doing? I don't know if she saw this or not, but the woman, she reached in her wallet and she pulled out 20 euros. I remember that. She pulled out 20 euros, and I was looking at her like, is this woman about to give me money? So she pulls out 20 euros, and then she like checks something in her head, and then she puts the money back. And then she pulls out 50 euros, and she puts the money on the seat. And I'm just looking at the money like, okay. And then she looks at me. She's like, don't just look at the money. It's yours. Take it. And I was like, huh? She was like, yeah, take this money. I think you're really going to need it. So, use this money for whatever it is that, can help you to get by. And I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. And she told me, she says, Francois, this is not a loan. I mean, this is not money I'm just giving to you. She's like, this is a loan. This is a loan. So you're going to pay me back. And I was like, of course, I'm going to pay you back. Thank you so much. So she paid for the taxi to go into Paris. I got my train. I used my card. Luckily, I was able to use my card that got the direct deposit money on it. And I bought my train ticket. Being at the train station was another headache because I don't speak French at this point, and I just don't know what to do. So long story short, I get to my town, and I remember when I get there, the 50 euros that she gives me, I was able to use that to buy a hotel for 2 days and enough money to get my dinner for the evening. and have change to get food and things and water for the next day. So I call her and let her know that I'm arrived, that I have arrived in my town, and she's very happy for me. And I just realized at that point that there are people outside of my own sphere of influence or sphere of understanding that can help me reach the goals that I need to accomplish. So I don't need to do all of these things alone. I don't need to worry about me having enough resources to pay for everything or to do everything that I need. Yes, I should, looking back, I should have had enough resources to cover everything, every eventuality that would occur when I was in France, because at the end of the day, I'm responsible for me. No one else is responsible for me. But luckily I was able to meet this person who helped me, and it just made me think like, wow, there are people who actually care. And I had met some people like this in the United States. My French teacher was one of them. A couple of people from the supermarket, but those are like very small, how can I say, they're very isolated, small isolated incidents. And the majority of people that I met, they weren't like that, right? Even the people at church, weren't like that. But there were a couple of people like that. But it just made me realize that, no matter where I go, there can be people who can help me as long as I'm like respectful and do my best to help people around me to have like some self-awareness. And it's a lesson that I carry with me, you know, to this day. I'm in Kazakhstan now, and it's 20 years later, and I'm still thinking about this lady who helped me. And it's helping me to understand that I need to help people around me. And for some reason, the more people I help around me, and I'm not saying I have to always go out of my way to help someone, but just have some self-awareness to see that people need help. My grandfather always taught me about these random acts of kindness. So if I see someone who's in trouble, if I can lend some assistance, I lend the assistance, and that will help me to not get something back, but it will help me to just understand, the world around me, to create community and to be able to live more comfortably in the world. I know this video is like all over the place. This topic is more therapeutic for me, and I guess I'll make videos in the future to kind of piggyback on the story, finish the story, and to share some other qualities that I think are necessary for living outside of the country, and possibly how you can get a job outside of the country. I don't know. I just want to share these thoughts with everyone, or with whoever wants to listen, right? And I'm not editing this video, so all of my mistakes are gonna stay because I don't care. I didn't even shave or anything like that because I don't care. This is just supposed to be for me. But yeah, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.